autonomous taxis, autonomous ride-hail systems could dominate urban transport. We think that the GDP contribution from autonomous ride-hail systems could total around 26 trillion by 2030. That 26 trillion includes about 2 trillion of profits that we expect off of these systems. So this is a massive, massive market opportunity. Ultimately, we think this could be one of those most meaningful economic productivity delivering innovations of all time.
In this video, we're looking through Ark Invest's latest research on the gigantic Robotaxi opportunity, which they believe is worth $13.3 trillion by 2026, just 4 years from now. Ark have previously referred to Robotaxis autonomy as a winner-takes-most market, and it is the opinion of this random guy on YouTube that Tesla has already won the race to solve autonomy. Their lead is unassailable. They will not only have the first widely available autonomous vehicles, and I'm not just talking about in small geofenced areas in some pre-map cities using LiDAR, etc. I mean a generalized solution that can be deployed in many different places at once without pre-mapping required. If things play out this way, over the next 4 years, Tesla is likely to take an outsized share, a gigantic share of this more than $10 trillion opportunity. Don't say I didn't warn you. So let's see what Ark have to say. Hey guys, thanks for watching. If you enjoy these videos, there's a bunch of ways you can support the channel, access exclusive content and perks, and get some free stocks and crypto. Check out the links in the pinned comment below. You can get 2 free stocks with WeBull, a free stock with Stake, free Bitcoin with Coinbase, and free Bitcoin with BlockFi, and the BlockFi Bitcoin Rewards credit card. You can also pick up some Tesla, Elon, and investment themed merch in the merch store. If you want to take it to the next level, join thousands of members on Patreon to gain exclusive access to over 100 Q&A videos, loads of exclusive content, exclusive access to my up-to-date 10-year Tesla stock price targets, and even access my Tesla valuation model at the investor support level and above. So check out the links in the pinned comment below, and thanks for your support.
Today, I'm going to talk about 2 different flavors of autonomous technology. So the first big idea is autonomous ride hailing. So, why do we care so much about autonomous ride hail? Well, we think that autonomous cars could be very inexpensive to consumers, and this is what will drive widespread demand. We think autonomous taxis, autonomous ride hail systems could dominate urban transport. And ultimately, we think this could be one of those most meaningful economic productivity delivering innovations of all time. We think that the GDP contribution from autonomous ride-hail systems could total around 26 trillion by 2030. For reference, GDP in 2021 is estimated to be at about 89 trillion right now. Numbers are coming out shortly, but that's the estimate.
Hold up, let's take a moment here. What Tasha just said, if Ark are right, autonomous ride-hail, robotaxis, in 2030 will account for the equivalent of about 1/3 of the world's entire GDP as it stands today. That's how big of an economic impact we're talking about here.
And that 26 trillion includes about 2 trillion of profits that we expect off of these systems. So this is a massive, massive market opportunity.
And that is a massive, massive understatement.
All right, let's get into why. So as I said, we expect autonomous ride hailing to be extremely affordable. At its floor, we expect the price per mile that you could profitably charge a consumer could be about 25 cents per mile. And if you look at the chart here, how does this compare to what we have today and what we've experienced throughout time? Well, the price of point-to-point mobility really hasn't changed since the Model T rolled off the first assembly line. Back in the 1930s, the price to drive a new personal car was about 70 cents per mile, and it's still about 70 cents now. That's changing. With autonomous ride hail, we think thanks to higher utilization rates, that cost could be as low as 25 cents per mile. And to explain that a bit, the utilization rate on a personal car is about 5% of the day or less. A New York City taxi might get a 30% utilization rate. We think that autonomous taxis could get higher utilization rates north of 50%. This is what's driving the cost down. Of course, there'll be a lot of benefits to autonomous cars. We think they'll be a lot safer, they'll be extremely convenient, but what do we think will drive demand? That is this price. And autonomous ride hail should attract not only people that are in the ride hailing market today, participants in the market today, but also car owners. So, a lot of the new work that we've done this year is around the price per mile that you could charge a consumer. So our first analysis said that that could be 25 cents per mile. But now we've taken a closer look, and we actually think there should be many more price segments. And so how we got there is we looked at the value that consumers perceive to be on their time, the perceived value of time that consumers ascribe to the time they spend driving. So we think that consumers value their time at about 60 cents to $1.10 per mile on average. The high end of that is time spent on commuting, work-related travel. The low end of that is time spent on, say, errands or, personal travel. But today, consumers pay about $2 per mile on average for ride hail in Western markets. That's about the average price of an Uber today. So they're already paying up for this additional convenience of ride hail. And notably, this is also much higher than the marginal cost to drive. So the marginal cost to drive is the variable cost of driving. It's basically what you think about when you drive, the cost of gas, insurance, all the costs that you pay, in a day-to-day or on an annual basis, as opposed to the fixed costs, which are also included in our 70 cents per mile estimate. So the marginal cost is about 34 cents per mile. So consumers are paying much more than that for ride hail today. And importantly, if you go back to that 25 cents per mile estimate that we have for, as cheap as can be autonomous driving, that's going to be lower than even just the marginal cost to drive at 34 cents. Autonomous ride hail is going to be attractive to, people of all kinds. I think it's going to bring a lot more people into the ride hail market than we have there today.
I'd love to get a sense from everyone watching. At this point in time, what do you think you would do as a consumer if the cost of autonomous robotaxi on demand, ride hailing whenever you need it, convenient, clean, safe, blah, 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 was cheaper than personal vehicle ownership by a meaningful amount? It's going to save you thousands of dollars per year to just use ride hail autonomous vehicles on demand rather than have your own personal vehicle. Plus, you don't need someone to garage your vehicle, blah, 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 blah. You think at that point in time, you'd personally be willing to ditch owning a car? Let me know in the comments below. And if not, why not?
When we segment the market, we've used the analysis that I just mentioned. So you can imagine that there's going to be a swath of demand worth, if you look at this chart, worth at around, $134 billion. That's using price points from what we see in today's ride hailing options, that $2 to $4 per mile. And this is mainly in Western markets. Then at about $990 billion of opportunity, that will be for Western markets supplanting commuting miles. So this is at the higher end of that value of time analysis that we did. And then another $2.4 trillion of opportunity for non-commuting miles. So this is, again, Western markets, the value that people place on their personal driving miles. Moving away from Western markets to places like China, where ride hail is already extremely cheap, that's another $2.75 trillion worth of opportunity. So that's coming in at around 50 cents per mile, a little bit lower. And then finally, this super long tail that you see here in the graph, an additional $5 trillion of opportunity at that low cost of 25 cents per mile for autonomous taxis. And, Sam mentioned in his presentation that there could be neighborhood electric vehicles. You can picture this being a purpose-built autonomous taxi. And this is a segment of the market where you bring many more people in that aren't participating in ride hail today, because they're all of a sudden getting access to really cheap point-to-point travel. So all in all, this sums up to about an $11 trillion addressable market. And I'll note that that's the addressable market, and I'll get into later, what we expect the market to actually be in the next 10 years or so. And one thing I'd like to note, because it's pretty topical, if you think about our 25 cents per mile estimate that brings in a lot of other people into the ride hail space, we actually think that autonomous taxis will also increase traffic globally. You can see here in the graph that in the next 10 years, traffic could more than double.
Who's pumped for traffic to double in the next 10 years? Let me know in the comments below. Sounds like a huge opportunity. If only there was somebody out there who'd had the foresight to start a company focused on alleviating the enormous traffic problem that's just around the corner.
This is because, of course, we expect autonomous ride hailing to be cheap and convenient. People might take it more often. But again, more importantly, it could expand the customer base, and this could add to miles traveled. But lucky us, we have, we're seeing the early innings of air taxis. So these are autonomous electric machines that fly. They can transport individuals or a couple people at once on short trips. So this is some analysis that Sam has done. And when air taxis commercialize, regulatory requirements permitting, they could cost roughly the price of what a taxi would cost you from Manhattan to JFK today. So an airport cab. But you'll get to the airport in about 18 minutes. Of course, this is much cheaper than today's helicopters. And the trade-off at the time, you can imagine, will be either you take an air taxi or you take an autonomous taxi. The autonomous taxi, which you can see here in green, is going to be a lot cheaper, maybe just $10 for the whole trip, but it's going to take you longer, again, because traffic will be worse. So that's really the trade-off that you'll be making between the two. And then finally, I'll point out here on the graph, you see subways. We think that mass transit will likely still stay as one of the cheapest options out there. And when we look at the enterprise value that we expect off of these systems, we think the lion's share of the economics should accrue to the autonomous platform providers. These are the companies that actually own the technology stack, the companies building the technology that makes the car drive itself. So that alone, by 2026, we think could be an $11.7 trillion bucket of public enterprise value ascribed to these systems. And if you think about the ride-hail space today and the automakers and car rental, everyone in the car ecosystem today, we don't necessarily think that those players will be the ones to be around in the future.
Tasha being extremely gentle and delicate with her wording there, but just to translate in case anyone didn't read between the lines there, legacy automotive companies are fucked.
And the automakers, we don't necessarily think that those players will be the ones to be around in the future. So starting with ride-hailing companies, their assets, their drivers are going away. Unless they partner with successful autonomous technology providers, they may not be around in the next 10 years.
Again, just in case I need to translate, Uber, Lyft, probably also fucked.
And then if they do partner with autonomous technology providers, the take rate that they get off their systems might be much lower than it is today because, the company that makes the car drive itself, that lowers costs, those companies will have the most leverage here in the system. Automakers. So as of November last year, the enterprise value of all automakers was about $4 trillion. And remember that that's mostly gas-powered car manufacturers, right? EVs are in the single-digit percentage points of all cars produced every year. In the future, we think that the autonomous electric auto manufacturer space, so this will consolidate. Not every automaker will survive the transition to electric technology, let alone autonomous technology.
Again, with the whole legacy automotive manufacturers ceasing to exist thing.
But those that do could enjoy a $1.6 trillion opportunity in the autonomous electric future. And again, that'll be a much more consolidated space. Also point out that you could take the purple bar here on the graph on the right and the green bar and add them on top of each other. That's about a $13 trillion that we can assign to the enterprise value for fully integrated companies. So companies that are fully verticalized, like Tesla, that are producing both the technology stack and the hardware, the car that goes with it, could sit in a market worth about $13 trillion in enterprise value.
Someone say Tesla going after a $13.3 trillion opportunity by 2026, just 4 years' time, and in an unassailable lead. I think that's what I heard. Wonder how much of this opportunity they'll actually capture. Could it be 10%, 20%? 30%? Let me know what you think in the comments below.
Lastly, fleet owners, that's about $300 billion worth of enterprise value by 2026. These are companies that could be, car rental companies that want to survive this transition, companies that house and maintain the vehicles. They serve as an important part of the ecosystem, but the share of economics will be a bit smaller than the other two categories. So all in all, we expect that autonomous ride hail could add about $26 trillion to global GDP by 2030. And it could be the most meaningful impact of any innovation in history. So first, how do we get there?
Oh, is that all? I mean, $26 trillion opportunity by 2030 and just the most meaningful impact of any innovation in history.
Well, you can see here on the graph on the left, we're looking at these various buckets of total losses and total gains that we expect for that 2030 GDP number. So on the losses side, almost $2 trillion of personal car sales. So you can imagine that as autonomous electric vehicles are available for ride hail, that people will start to forego car purchases. You may stop using your personal car, and then eventually the next time you come up to purchase one, you won't. And these will be gas-powered cars mainly, right, that will no longer be purchased. So along with that, there's about $660 billion worth of fuel revenue that could go away. And then maintenance, electric vehicles require much less maintenance than a gas-powered car. We expect all autonomous vehicles to be electric. They're extremely cheap on an operating basis, but also we've heard that they offer better technology integration as well, opportunities there. Lastly, on the losses side, medical revenue, property repair revenue. These are buckets that we're assigning to the revenues that are spent on car accidents. So every year globally, over 1 million people die per year in car accidents. And in fact, today alone, over 3,000 people will likely die. So while, we see these revenue streams going away, of course, overall, this is, I think, a net benefit to society. And then actually one more bucket is insurance. We expect autonomous cars will be 80% less likely to get in an accident than human-driven cars today. So insurance will likely be cheaper on these vehicles. Moving to gains, the total gains are about 30 trillion. This includes 16 trillion productivity uplift. Brett, in the beginning of Big Ideas today, mentioned that we think autonomous technology could allow for this unlock where you turn previously unaccounted for economic activity, driving your car, into economic activity. So maybe you'll be reading work emails, doing work, or if you're Brett, maybe you're binge watching Netflix in the backseat of this vehicle. $10 trillion in service revenue. This is the revenues that we expect off of the taxi platforms themselves.
Just to take one of these numbers for context, let's say Tesla captures 10% of this autonomous ride hail opportunity. Ark, we're talking about $10 trillion. So Tesla's share of that, $1 trillion of revenue just from the fees associated with ride hail. Do you want to know how many companies today do over $1 trillion in revenue? None. So a 10% slice of the autonomous ride-hailing market at the end of this decade could be worth $1 trillion, which is about twice as much revenue just from that opportunity than the world's largest company does in total revenue today. Just imagine if the company that also happens to take a decent slice of this ride-hailing market also has other products and services addressing multi-trillion-dollar markets. If only such a company existed, and unfortunately I can't find one, so I just keep buying Tesla stock with every spare cent.
An economic gain for the preservation of life. Again, we're preventing over 1 million people of dying in auto accidents every year, and they go on to be productive members of society. And then about $1 trillion of incremental autonomous car sales. So if you look at the graph on the right, all in all, going back to the 1850s, looking at the steam engine, robots in the 1990s to the early 2000s, IT from a similar time period as robots, those were all extremely meaningful, but their impact on annual GDP was less than 1%. We think that the impact from robotaxis could be 2 to 3 percentage points on annual GDP by 2030. So again, this is one of the most meaningful innovations that we will see in our lifetime.
One of the most meaningful and, if you happen to be a Tesla stock investor, in my opinion, financially lucrative opportunities of our lifetime. Of course, anything could happen, but in my opinion, the most probable outcome, Tesla takes a double-digit percentage share of the global autonomous ride-hail market and goes on to become the biggest money-printing machine, aka company, in history, while doing a huge amount of good at the same time and saving countless lives. Win, win, win. Let me know what you guys and girls think in the comments below. What are your thoughts on Ark's thesis around autonomy, the opportunity, how much do you think Tesla can capture? Will you personally give up car ownership when it makes sense financially? And just for fun, how much will Tesla be worth as a company in 2030? And last of all, don't forget you can support the channel by signing up to Patreon with the card in the corner or the link in the pinned comment, and you'll gain access to over 100 exclusive Q&A videos, loads of other content, plus my Tesla price targets all the way out to 2031 in the bear case, the base case, and the bull case. And I'll see you guys in the next video. video. I'm Stephen Mark Ryan. This is Solving the Money Problem, and I love you all. Hey guys, thanks for watching. If you enjoy these videos, there's a bunch of ways you can support the channel, access exclusive content and perks, and get some free stocks and crypto. Check out the links in the pinned comment below. You can get 2 free stocks with WeBull, a free stock with Stake, free Bitcoin with Coinbase, and free Bitcoin with BlockFi, and the BlockFi Bitcoin Rewards credit card. You can also pick up some Tesla, Elon, and investment themed merch in the merch store. If you want to take it to the next level, join thousands of members on Patreon to gain exclusive access to over 100 Q&A videos, loads of exclusive content, exclusive access to my up-to-date 10-year Tesla stock price targets, and even access my Tesla valuation model at the investor support level and above. So check out the links in the pinned comment below, and thanks for your support. And if you're still watching, you're awesome. I read every single comment on this channel and I really appreciate your feedback. So if you've got any thoughts on today's video, questions, comments, or suggestions for a new video, let me know in the comments below. Check the cards on screen now to browse the merch store, join Patreon, or watch the next video.